class.
Oh.
So those of you at home, this is for my regular class. What I'm going to try doing is I'm going to start on page 32 at the top, and we're going to start reading from there, and then we're going to go from that and see how far we can get. And then I will read again during Best today. So if you want to watch double videos, you have a chance to hopefully have me read maybe all the way up to the checkpoint for tomorrow to see how things go. But I'm going to try and read here, and then I'll post this video, and there'll be a second video that I'll read during Best. We'll try to help you out from there. Pincinelli.
Can I put earbuds in so I can't hear you?
That's fine.
Can you grab them?
Sure. Points?
No. Wait, how is that points this week?
No.
Oh, do it. There goes my streak.
Yeah, these things happen. Those people at home.
I'm going to tune you out with my earbuds plugged into my phone.
Right?
All right, Carnahan.
There's a second book to this?
Yeah, it's even better. But you can't understand the second book till you read this one. But it's sort of like Empire Strikes Back versus Star Wars, where the second one's better, but it makes no sense unless you've seen the first one. Those of you at home, thanks for following along. We're in my special class right now.
We're not special.
You know who says that? Special kids. Page 32.
Thank you. May I use the restroom, please?
Once that other kid gets back, yes.
Who?
And it takes you down to 10 points.
What?
You were at 13 minus 3 makes 10.
I was at 13. I was at 19.
I know what the
like
real
yesterday.
question is, she said. The real question to find out whether or not you hate him. What? The question is, if there were a way for you to make it happen, would you wish that Austin Pace had never been born? The cold of the night hit me just then, but I don't think it was just the cold. It was something more. Something inside, not out. And it was because I knew the answer to that question, I didn't like the answer at all. Would you? Yes. And then she whispered back, I know how that feels. The breeze played with the dying leaves above us. The chill got stronger. Before, I just felt nasty. Now, I felt weird. Weird and uncomfortable. With myself, with that question. Do I wish Lost in Space had never been born? Yeah, I wish that. As much as I hated myself for wishing that, deep down, really deep down, I did feel that way. And I couldn't change that. It was scary. Cheryl, I'm spooked out. Me too, she said. It's getting cold. Maybe we should go in? Cheryl went first, and I followed her down. You really do feel that way too, huh? I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's talk about something nice. But we didn't talk about anything nice. We didn't talk much about anything at all. That good feeling we had when we first climbed in the treehouse was gone and wouldn't come back for the rest of the night. We went in, watched 10 minutes of TV with her brother, then I hopped on my bike and rode home. I tried to chase that eerie feeling away by burying my head in that first night's homework. It worked. By morning, the feeling was gone. I felt like my old self and Gesundheit went on as if what we discovered about ourselves in the treehouse that night meant absolutely nothing at all. Ignoring that night was a mistake. Not the first one, not the last one either. Maybe that feeling was meant to be a warning, a bright red alarm flashing in our eyes. If it was, we were both too stupid to notice it. Chapter 34, The Fire and the Agony. Those of you reading at home, this is the part that looks like that. Right. People were milling around the phys ed bulletin board before classes. Ours wasn't the only team choosing captains that day, and everyone there waited impatiently for each coach to put up the results. I wasn't one of the kids waiting. Sure, I wanted to be captain, but I didn't want to think about it. The more I thought about it, the more worried I would get, and I'd feel miserable until the results went up. It was better to think about anything else until then. I thought about my new teachers, my old friends, what I would have for lunch, anything but the track team and Austin Pace and his $1 million Aeropez that never got dirty and looked like they came from planet Krypton or someplace like that. I wandered around a bit before the homeroom bell rang, looking for people I hadn't seen the day before. People really do change in one summer. Charlie Garcias had grown like 6 inches since June. And everyone I knew seemed to have gotten rid of their braces. I talked to Ralphie Sherman, who said that he made a movie in Hollywood over the summer. Ralphie was always good for a laugh because he never uttered a word of truth in his entire life. Anyway, pretty soon I forgot all about the track team and was in a good mood. I mean, such a good mood, I even said hello to Tyson McGaw. He grunted back, and then 5 minutes later, got himself into a fight with some kid whose name I don't even remember. Watching Tyson get into fights was a school tradition. Personally, I never got into a real fight with him. Like I said before, Tyson fought like an animal, and I wanted nothing to do with that. Just looking at him, you could tell that something wasn't quite right. His eyes were, I don't know, kind of far away, like he wasn't seeing you, and his stringy, matted hair was just plain ugly. It seemed no amount of combing could help that. Tyson was definitely not a mother's dream. Mr. Green saw the fight and ran down the hall. Mr. Green was a vice principal, but doubled as the school guidance counselor, which must have been a tough job since so many kids go wacko during junior high. That's legit. After Mr. Green had broken up the fight, which wasn't much of a fight, it was more like Tyson doing an impersonation of the Tasmanian devil, which is why I put the picture up there. If you don't know who the Tasmanian devil is, that's him. And in case you are unaware, there is an actual animal called the Tasmanian devil. It lives in Australia, in a part of Australia called Tasmania. And it's a small thing like a badger, and they're known for being incredibly crazy and fierce. When they bite you, they'll take you down, they don't let go. So that's why they're called Tasmanian devils, is because they're like one of the fiercest fighting animals ever. Everyone in the hall began to applaud and laugh at Tyson as he continued struggling with Green. I have to admit, I laughed a little too. Like I said, it was a school tradition. Mr. Green held him as he struggled. Then Tyson turned to Green and screamed out a whole lot of words I don't want to repeat. And then started breathing like a bull, ready to charge. "You know what he did?" he screamed at Green. "What did he do, Tyson?" "He called me a slime ball." I laughed right away. I couldn't help it. It was the way he said it, with all that anger in his voice, long and drawn out. Slime ball. Everyone laughed, but I guess I must have laughed the loudest because Tyson broke away from Green and then stomped up to me. "You think that's funny, huh?" he yelled, almost ready to pull back his fist and hit me. "You touch me, Tyson, I swear I'll flatten you. I'll hang you by your toenails over a bear trap." That one really sent him for a loop. He looked at me with those weird eyes, trying to figure out how that would feel. For a split second, I felt bad for him. I mean, here he was, this nutty kid in a frenzy, and everyone was laughing at him. He must have felt terrible. I almost felt like saying, "It's okay, Tyson, you're not a slime ball. Just take it easy," just to make him feel better. But then everyone around me began to laugh even harder, and then Tyson just stormed off. Green gave me this dirty look that said, "Bear trap? I'll give you a bear trap," and then ran after Tyson. Yeah, school was the same as ever. As the homeroom bell rang, I heard a voice behind me. "Jared." Sorry, wrong voice. "Jared, I'd like to speak with you for a minute." I recognized the voice right away. I turned to see Coach Schuler. You know that feeling you get when you think something great is going to happen and your heart misses a beat and you get shivers down your spine? Well, that's what I felt just then. Why would Coach Schuler pull me aside to talk to me unless he had good news for me about the captaincy? "Hi, Coach, what's up?" I said cheerfully. "You got a minute?" "Yeah." "Great. Why don't you come into my office?" I followed him down the hall and into the gym where it was much quieter. Our footsteps echoed in the huge empty gym as we crossed it. It was cold, and the air had the sour smell of the floor varnish. We went into the gym office. "Have a seat," he said. Then he picked up his clipboard and began to look at it. He sat in the other chair behind the desk. I totaled up the results. "Yeah?" I said, trying to sound like I really didn't care. "It was pretty close." "Yeah?" He looked up from his clipboard. I really couldn't read his expression. He had a poker face, I guess. I mean, you could never tell what was in his head. He stalled, keeping me in suspense. I didn't have a poker face. I knew all the expectation was in my eyes. In my lap, I had my fingers crossed so hard my knuckles were turning white. "You didn't get it, Jared. I'm sorry." At first, it was like I didn't quite hear him. My fingers were still crossed, as if crossing them could change what he had said. I still held my breath, but then what my ears had heard made its way into my brain. You know that sinking feeling? The kind you get about 10 seconds before you realize that you're going to throw up? Well, I didn't feel like I was going to throw up, but that sinking feeling stayed around for a long time. Before I went into his office, I'd been prepared to lose. But then he called me in, and then I was sure that I had won. Why couldn't he have just let me find out when he posted it? I could have handled that. It wouldn't have been so bad. I would have just looked and then walked away. But now he got my hopes up, and I couldn't just walk away. I had to sit there and feel lousy. Well, like I said, it was a close race. You and Austin were neck and neck the whole way. He began to fiddle with his clipboard. If it wasn't his clipboard, it was his whistle. If it wasn't his whistle, hiccup, it was his glasses. He always fiddled with something. Listen, I know how much you wanted to be captain, and because of all your hard work, I'm going to make you a very special offer. As runner-up, you're entitled to something very special, so I'm making you assistant coach. Assistant coach, I said. Now, it might not sound so bad to you, but you have to understand that assistant coach was a position usually given to some younger kid who is not even a good enough runner to be on the team. He might as well have told me I was team mascot. Assistant coach? That's right. Well, what do I get to do? Take attendance? Get equipment? Stuff like that. What was I supposed to say to that? Austin gets all the glory and power of being team captain. I get to take attendance. I tried to be enthusiastic, but I couldn't. And the coach could see it in my eyes. I didn't have a poker face. Thanks. Well, you don't seem too happy about it. No, I'm happy. I'm just a little upset about not being captain, that's all. Yeah, sure. I understand. Well, you can hang around here for a few minutes if you like. I can give you a late pass for homeroom. No, that's okay. I'm sure you can tell by my voice that I wasn't okay. I didn't have a poker voice either. Listen, there's always high school. Right, I said, silently thinking how Lost in Space would win again when we were seniors in high school. Thanks. It was the least I could do. You're a good kid, Jared. I feel bad for you. No, don't feel bad for me. I don't want you feeling bad for me. No, I mean that, well, I think sometimes life gives people the short end of the stick, and I think you deserve more. Thanks, I said, for the 1200th time. See you this afternoon? Yeah. Be early, so you can take attendance. Coaches. The hall was empty when I left the gym, except for one kid. None other than Lost in Space himself was standing outside the gym doors. He was waiting for me. It was not a coincidence. Oh, you spoke to the coach already, huh? Yep. So, he told you I won? How'd you already know? He spoke to me first. You don't think he'd tell you before he told me, do you? Austin waited for an answer, but I didn't give him one. Now, I'll bet you like being team secretary. Assistant coach. Nah, all it really is like team secretary. Hey, I'll make sure to give you lots of memos to type. Maybe you can come over to my house sometime and answer some phones? I turned and walked down the hall. He followed, his aeropeds gliding across the floor. I wanted to step on him and leave a nice gray tread marks on the snow-white leather toes. It's not secretary. All right, gopher then. What? Gopher. Hey, Jared, go for this. Hey, Jared, go for that. Hey, Jared, gopher, gopher, gopher. I just scowled at him. He saw the anger in my unpoker face and laughed. Just kidding, he said in the nastiest, most obnoxious tone a person could come up with. Then he laughed harder and turned away. His aeropeds bouncing off down the hallway, squeaking on the floor. I felt more humiliated than I'd felt in a long time as I walked down the hall. It wasn't the fact that I was assistant coach that bothered me. It was the fact that Austin knew first, and as usual, made fun of me, calling me gopher. It was bad enough to feel hidden in his shadow, but to be humiliated, that was something else. He was just twisting the knife. How would I feel if Austin Pace had never been born? Let's not talk about it. The alarm went off at 1:30. That's right, you guessed it, another school fire. I can't say I wasn't glad to hear the alarm bell. I hadn't been able to concentrate all day because of what had happened that morning. At least now, I could feel angry without having to pay attention to teachers at the same time. And it used to be nobody raised much of a fuss when the fire alarm went off. The teachers would just get the class up and funnel them in an orderly manner down the stairway and out into the field. Now, it was much quicker and much more serious. It used to be they were all drills or false alarms. But last year, there were 3 real fires. The last one burned down the gym. For those of you playing the home game, we are stopping on page 42, about halfway down. My goal is I will be posting a second video after this one, so I'm going to read during best today. We'll try to get another 10 or 15 pages to get you guys a little bit closer. On the off chance you don't watch that one, things to help you out. They're going to talk about Little Orphan Annie, the play/musical thing. That's going to be the one coming up at the school, and one of the characters that are going out for it. They're going to be meeting at a place called Stonehenge. And the last one, a thing happens with a thermos. That's what a thermos is.